First contact and betrayal. The void of space stretched endlessly before the Pathfinder, humanity's most advanced deep space exploration vessel. Captain Maya Chen stood at the observation deck, her dark eyes reflecting the distant stars as the ship glided through the emptiness between solar systems. At 42, she had spent most of her adult life among the stars, watching humanity's gradual expansion beyond their home system. This mission, however, was different. Captain, we're detecting unusual energy readings from the fourth planet. First Officer Raj Patel reported, his fingers dancing across the holographic display. Unlike anything we've encountered before. Maya nodded, brushing a strand of silver-streaked black hair from her face. Set course. Standard approach protocol. The Pathfinder adjusted its trajectory, its fusion engines pulsing with controlled power as it moved toward the uncharted world. The planet gradually grew larger on their view screens, a swirling marble of deep blues and vibrant purples, wrapped in gossamer clouds that shimmered with an inner light. Life signs? Maya asked. Science Officer Dr. Elena Volkov looked up from her station, excitement evident in her voice. Abundant, Captain. And the energy signatures. They're artificial. We're looking at a technologically advanced civilization. The crew fell silent. In the 20 years since humanity had ventured beyond their solar system, they had discovered microbial life on several worlds, even primitive aquatic creatures on Europa. But never intelligence, never civilization. Open a channel, Maya ordered. All frequencies, universal translation matrix active. For 3 days, the Pathfinder orbited the alien world, broadcasting peace messages in every conceivable format, mathematical sequences, simple pictographs, and basic linguistic patterns derived from Earth's languages. On the 4th day, they received a response. The main screen flickered to life, revealing a slender, luminescent being with 6 limbs and large, compound eyes that refracted light like living prisms. Its skin seemed to pulse with patterns of light that moved beneath a translucent surface. "We receive your greeting, vessel from beyond," the alien said, its words processed through the ship's translation matrix. "I am Philara, speaker for the Viridian Collective. We welcome peaceful contact." The encounter that followed would be recorded in human history as First Contact Day. The Viridians proved to be a species of scientists and philosophers, their civilization thousands of years older than humanity's. They had mastered technologies humans had only theorized about: gravity manipulation, zero-point energy, and bioregenerative materials that blurred the line between organic and synthetic. Within months, a formal alliance was established. The United Earth Confederation and the Viridian Collective agreed to exchange knowledge, technology, and cultural understanding. A joint outpost named Harmony was constructed on a small moon orbiting the Viridian homeworld, where scientists from both species could work together. Maya Chen requested permanent assignment to Harmony, bringing with her 16-year-old daughter Lily, a prodigy in xenobiology who had been living on Earth with her father since their divorce. Lily thrived in the collaborative environment, forming a particularly close bond with a young Viridian named Ilara, whose light patterns would flicker with excitement whenever they made a new discovery together. "They don't think like we do, Mom," Lily explained one evening as they watched the strange constellations from Harmony's observation dome. "They experience time differently, more fluid, but the way they understand energy fields could revolutionize everything from medicine to space travel." Maya smiled at her daughter's enthusiasm. "Just remember, we still know very little about this part of the galaxy. Be careful." "The Viridians have been nothing but helpful," Lily countered. "And they've been exploring these stars for millennia without issue." Maya's concerns proved prophetic sooner than anyone expected. 6 months after Harmony's founding, during a cultural exchange event hosting children from both species, long-range sensors detected multiple vessels entering the system. They weren't Viridian, and they weren't human. "Unidentified craft approaching at sublight speed," announced Security Chief Thomas Rivera, his voice tense. No response to hails. On the command deck, Maya watched as the alien ships emerged from the darkness. Angular vessels covered in what appeared to be overlapping plates of dark metal, resembling nothing so much as predatory insects. Viridian Command acknowledges them as Draken Imperium vessels. Communications Officer Sarah Okafor reported, her fingers moving rapidly across her console. They're advising immediate evacuation. The Draken are apparently known conquerors in this sector. Maya's blood ran cold. How much time do we have? Minutes, Captain. The Viridians are mobilizing their defense fleet, but the first impact rocked the station before Sarah could finish her sentence. Emergency sirens wailed as lights flickered across the command center. All personnel to evacuation shuttles, Maya ordered, her voice steady despite the fear gripping her heart. Priority to civilians and children. Rivera, deploy security teams to escort groups. Okafor, make sure we're broadcasting on all emergency frequencies. As the station shuddered under another hit, Maya had one thought that eclipsed all others. Lily. Her daughter was in the biodome with the Viridian children, showing them earth plants. Maya raced through corridors filled with panicked personnel, the station's artificial gravity fluctuating with each new impact. When she reached the biodome, she found chaos. Several sections had decompressed, emergency force fields barely containing the atmosphere. Through the transparent dome, she could see Draken boarding craft attaching to the station's exterior. In the center of the room, Lily stood with Ilara and a group of Viridian children, trying to lead them toward the emergency exits. As Maya rushed toward them, the main doors to the biodome slid open. They entered like nightmares, towering, armored figures with too many limbs and faceless helmets that reflected the terrified faces of their victims. Each Draken soldier stood nearly 8 feet tall, their armor covered in sharp protrusions and glowing runes. "Mom!" Lily cried out, pushing the children behind her. Maya reached for her sidearm, knowing even as she did that it would be useless against the invaders' armor. The lead Draken raised what appeared to be a weapon, its barrel glowing with pulsing energy. "Wait!" Maya shouted, stepping between the soldiers and the children. "They're unarmed. We can talk about this." The Draken commander tilted its helmeted head, as if considering her words. Then, with a gesture that seemed almost casual, it activated something on its armor. Around the station, all communication systems suddenly activated, broadcasting on all frequencies. The Draken wanted witnesses. "Let this serve as instruction to all species," the commander's voice boomed, translated through some unknown technology. "The resources of this system are claimed by the Draken Imperium. Resistance is futility. Harboring Viridian filth is punishable by extinction." What followed would be seared into humanity's collective memory forever. Across Earth and human colonies, billions watched in horror as the Draken systematically executed everyone in the biodome. The cameras captured everything. Scientists pleading for mercy, children huddled together in fear, and the methodical slaughter that followed. The last image broadcast from Harmony showed Lily Chen standing protectively in front of a group of Viridian children, her face showing not fear but fierce determination. Beside her, Ilara's skin pulsed with light patterns that the translation matrix identified as a prayer. "You don't have to do this," Lily said to the Draken commander, her voice steady. "We can find a peaceful solution." The energy blast cut her words short, and the transmission abruptly ended. On Earth, in homes and offices, on streets and in schools, the reaction was the same. Shock giving way to grief, and grief burning into something else entirely, something the Draken had never encountered in all their years of conquest. For 3 days, Earth stood still. Flags hung at half-mast. Public spaces fell silent. People gathered in parks and squares, laying flowers and lighting candles for those lost at Outpost Harmony. The broadcasts played again and again on news channels, edited to remove the worst violence, but showing enough that no one could look away. On the 4th day, Admiral Helena Kojima walked slowly to the podium in the United Earth Confederation chamber. The room was packed, with representatives from every nation present. Kojima was not a tall woman, but as she stood before the world's leaders, she seemed to grow in stature. Her uniform was crisp, her face lined with grief but clear-eyed. 3 days ago, we witnessed evil, she said, her voice carrying to every corner of the silent room. We saw what the Draken Imperium does to those who stand in their way. We saw them murder our children. She paused, letting the words sink in. Now they will witness our response. The chamber erupted in applause. When it quieted, Kojima continued, "For too long, humanity has fought itself. Today, we have a common enemy, one that believes we will cower in fear after their display of brutality." Her eyes moved from face to face. They do not understand humans. The resolution passed unanimously. Earth would go to war, not in panic, not in blind rage, but with cold, calculated purpose. For the first time in its tumultuous history, humanity stood truly united. In the secure command bunker beneath Geneva, recently promoted Fleet Admiral Chen, Maya had survived the attack by being trapped in a different section of the station when the Draken boarded, addressed the assembled military leadership of Earth. "The Draken believe they understand war," she said, her voice hollow but determined, the image of her daughter's final moments never far from her thoughts. "They believe their technology and their brutality make them invincible. They have never faced humanity before." As she spoke, factories across the planet were being retooled. Nations that had jealously guarded their military secrets now shared everything. Scientists worked around the clock, incorporating Viridian knowledge into new weapon systems. The few Viridian survivors from outlying settlements joined human engineers, their understanding of Draken technology proving invaluable. In a laboratory beneath the Pacific Ocean, Dr. Volkov, who had escaped Harmony on one of the few shuttles that made it out, worked alongside a Viridian scientist named Zirith. Their goal: to create something the Draken had never encountered. "Your species has always fascinated me," Zirith said, light patterns rippling across their translucent skin. "You are so young, yet you push boundaries other species would not approach for millennia." Elena smiled grimly as she adjusted the experimental drive. "We're fast learners, especially when motivated." For weeks they worked without rest, testing and failing and testing again. Then one night, as most of the facility slept, a test unit in their lab flickered and disappeared. "It worked," Elena shouted, checking her instruments. "It's still there but phased partially out of normal space." Zirith's skin flashed with patterns of joy. "The Ghost Protocol lives." The breakthrough changed everything. Ships equipped with the Ghost Protocol could move unseen, strike without warning, and escape before the enemy could respond. Earth now had a weapon the Draken had never encountered. 6 months after the massacre, Earth's first battle fleet gathered in orbit. 20 ships, each carrying the new Ghost Protocol. Their hulls were black, absorbing light rather than reflecting it. Their weapon systems were untested in real combat, but powerful in simulations. On the bridge of the flagship Retribution, Admiral Kojima addressed the crews of all 20 vessels. "The Draken believe themselves the masters of this galaxy," she said. "They have conquered 17 species across hundreds of worlds. They expect us to hide, to beg for mercy when they return." She paused, looking at the assembled officers on her bridge. "They expect us to behave like every other species they have crushed beneath their feet." Her eyes fixed on Admiral Chen, standing at her side. "They have never faced humans before." On the tactical deck, Maya Chen felt a cold resolve settle over her. The image of Lily's final moments never left her, but now that pain had purpose. "Ghost Protocol engaged," announced the helmsman. "Operation Nemesis begins now," ordered Kojima. The human fleet disappeared from normal space, leaving Earth's orbit empty as they set course for their first target, a Draken outpost at the edge of what had once been Viridian territory. Across the stars, in the heart of the Draken Imperium, the sovereign sat upon a throne of conquered worlds, unaware that a storm was coming, a storm born of human grief and forged into vengeance and ascension. The Draken outpost orbiting the gas giant Thetis had stood for 3 centuries, a monument to the Imperium's dominance in this sector of space. Its garrison had never faced serious threat. Occasional pirates were swiftly obliterated, and the conquered species in nearby systems had long ago been subjugated or exterminated. Commander Vrex stalked the control center, his chitinous armor clicking against the metallic floor. 6 eyes blinked in sequence as he reviewed security protocols. The subjugation of the Viridians was proceeding as expected, though their resistance had been more organized than anticipated. The humans, a previously unknown species, had been a minor complication, but their destruction would serve as useful propaganda. The Sovereign was pleased. Status report. Vrex demanded of his subordinate. All systems nominal, Commander, replied the officer, mandibles clicking in deference. Long-range scanners show no. The officer never finished his sentence. Where there had been empty space a moment before, 20 vessels suddenly materialized, already firing. The human fleet had emerged from Ghost Protocol directly within the outpost's defensive perimeter, bypassing outer sensors entirely. Precision strikes disabled communication arrays and weapon systems in the first volley. The outpost's fighters scrambled in response, but their formations were predictable, designed to counter enemies who followed expected patterns. They'd never had to adapt, observed Lieutenant Commander Sarah Okafor aboard the assault vessel Harmony's Memory. Having survived the original massacre, she had insisted on joining the fleet despite her previous non-combat role. "Let's show them something new," replied Captain Rivera, now commanding the vessel. The human ships moved in patterns the Draken couldn't anticipate, accelerating when they should retreat, attacking from impossible angles as the Ghost Protocol allowed them to slip between dimensions. Ships would appear, fire, and vanish before the Draken targeting systems could lock onto them. In the flagship Retribution, Admiral Kojima watched the battle unfold with cold calculation. "Ground teams deploy," she ordered. "Secure any intelligence data. No unnecessary casualties. We take prisoners if they surrender." The battle ended in just under 40 minutes. The Draken outpost was captured intact, with only 3 human ships sustaining minor damage. Before leaving the system, Admiral Kojima ordered a message broadcast on all frequencies the Draken used, knowing it would reach their central command. The message was simple, delivered in the Draken language and repeated in English. For Outpost Harmony. As the fleet jumped back to Earth bringing prisoners and valuable intelligence data, news of the victory spread across human colonies and outposts. For the first time since the massacre, people felt something other than grief. They felt hope. In her private quarters, Admiral Chen reviewed the battle recordings. The Draken had fought well, but without imagination. They had power but lacked adaptability. "They've been the strongest for too long," she murmured to herself. "They'd forgotten how to face a real challenge." Across the stars, in the heart of Draken territory, the message reached the Sovereign's chambers. For the first time in generations, uncertainty entered the minds of the Imperium's leaders. What had been a simple cleansing operation had become a war. The Sovereign's response was immediate and predictable, overwhelming force. A fleet of 100 Draken warships was dispatched to the human home system, with orders to eradicate all life on Earth and its colonies. What the Draken did not understand, could not understand, was that humans had anticipated this reaction. Intelligence gathered from the captured outpost had revealed the Imperium's standard tactical responses. The Viridian survivors had helped translate and interpret the data, providing crucial insights into Draken psychology and military doctrine. "They think linearly," explained Zirith to the United Earth Defense Council. "If defeated, increase forces by factor of 5. If victorious, consolidate and expand. Their tactics haven't evolved in 600 years because they haven't needed to." This knowledge proved invaluable as human scientists worked to refine the Ghost Protocol. What had begun as a stealth system evolved into something more, a weapon that could disrupt the fabric of space-time itself. In the vast shipyards of Earth orbit, a new vessel took shape, larger than any previously built, its systems incorporating both human ingenuity and Viridian theoretical physics. They named it Nemesis. When the Draken Armada arrived at the edge of the solar system, sensors probing ahead for Earth's defenses, they found nothing but empty space. No fleet, no orbital stations, no defenses of any kind. Confused but cautious, they approached Earth itself. The planet appeared abandoned, cities dark, no electronic emissions, no sign of the billions who had inhabited it. The Draken commander, Grand Marshal Krell, suspected a trap but could detect nothing. After 3 days of scanning, he ordered landing parties to the surface. The reports from the ground teams were baffling. The cities were intact but empty. Food remained on tables in homes. Vehicles sat unused in streets. It was as if the entire human race had simply vanished. In truth, they had. Using an expanded version of the Ghost Protocol, humanity had phased their entire civilization partially out of normal space. Cities, people, infrastructure, all still there but existing in a dimensional state the Draken could neither detect nor interact with. Only the empty shells of buildings remained visible. As the confused Draken forces spread across Earth's surface, searching for an enemy that seemed to have evaporated, Admiral Kojima gave the order. Operation Lazarus commences now. Around the Draken fleet, space itself seemed to ripple. The Nemesis emerged from its dimensional shift directly in the center of the enemy armada, its massive form dwarfing even the largest Draken vessels. It was not alone. Every ship of Earth's expanded fleet materialized simultaneously, surrounding the Draken in a three-dimensional web of firepower. What followed wasn't merely a battle, it was a massacre. The Draken ships, their formations disrupted by the sudden appearance of enemies in their midst, struggled to coordinate a response. Human vessels phased in and out of normal space, impossible to target effectively. Weapons designed by Dr. Volkov and her team exploited weaknesses in Draken shield technologies that intelligence from the captured outpost had revealed. From the command chair of the Nemesis, Admiral Chen watched with grim satisfaction as the Draken fleet was systematically dismantled. She felt no joy, only the cold comfort of justice served. Broadcast on all Draken frequencies, she ordered. Communications Officer Okafor nodded, opening the channel. This is Admiral Maya Chen of Earth, she began, her voice steady. You came to our home, expecting to find another species to conquer. Instead, you found humanity. She paused, allowing her words to reach every Draken vessel. We offer you one opportunity to surrender. Power down your weapons, and you will be treated according to interstellar conventions of war. Continue fighting, and none of you will return to your sovereign. For several long moments, there was no response. Then, one by one, Draken vessels began powering down their systems. Not all. Some fought to the bitter end, but enough that when the battle concluded, Earth had captured 37 ships and several thousand prisoners. The interrogation of these prisoners, combined with data recovered from their vessels, provided Earth with the location of the Draken throne world, Imperius Prime, and a complete map of their territory. 6 months after the Battle of Earth, as it came to be known, humanity was ready for its next move. The Ghost Protocol had been refined further, allowing for more precise control of dimensional shifting. Earth's fleet had expanded to over 100 vessels, many incorporating captured and reverse-engineered Draken technology. But before striking at the heart of the Imperium, there was another mission, one personal to many who had survived the Harmony Massacre. The Viridian homeworld remains under Draken occupation. Admiral Kojima reminded the Defense Council. Before we take the fight to their throne world, we liberate Viridia. The plan was approved unanimously. 2 days later, the Liberation Fleet departed Earth orbit, led by the Nemesis with Admirals Kojima and Chen in command. The Draken occupation force on Viridia had no warning. One moment, the skies above the conquered world were empty save for their patrol vessels. The next, 80 human warships appeared in perfect attack formation. The battle was brief but fierce. The Draken had reinforced their position on Viridia, aware of the defeat their forces had suffered at Earth. But they still had no effective counter to the Ghost Protocol, and their tactics remained rigid and predictable. Within hours, the orbital defenses were neutralized. Ground forces deployed to the surface, human soldiers fighting alongside surviving Viridian resistance fighters to reclaim their world. The cities of Viridia, their crystal spires dulled by Draken occupation, began to shine once more as the invaders were driven back. In what had once been the Viridian Council Chambers, now serving as the Draken Command Center, Admiral Chen personally led the final assault. When the Draken commander was cornered, she offered the same choice she had given the fleet at Earth. Surrender, and you will live to see your homeworld again. The commander, his armored form towering over the human officers, chittered something that the translators interpreted as laughter. The Sovereign does not recognize surrender, he said. The Imperium is eternal. You have won nothing but temporary reprieve. Our numbers are endless, our resolve absolute. Maya nodded, as if she had expected nothing else. Then deliver a message to your Sovereign when you see him in whatever afterlife you believe in. Tell him that humanity is coming, and we bring with us something he has never faced. She leaned closer. Consequences. The liberation of Viridia marked a turning point in the war. 17 other species that had been conquered by the Draken over centuries saw in humanity something they had thought extinct: hope. Resistance movements emerged across Draken territory, coordinating their efforts with Earth's military. As the alliance grew, plans were finalized for the assault on Imperius Prime itself. The combined fleet, human, Viridian, and ships from a dozen other liberated species, gathered at the edge of the Draken home system. We face the heart of the beast, Admiral Kojima addressed the assembled captains via holographic conference. The Sovereign has recalled all available forces to defend their throne world. Intelligence suggests over 300 vessels, plus planetary defenses beyond anything we've encountered. They're scared, observed Admiral Chen. For the first time in their history, the Draken fear extinction themselves. The battle for Imperius Prime would become legendary, a 7-day engagement that saw losses on both sides unlike anything in recorded history. The Ghost Protocol gave the Alliance a critical advantage, but the Draken fought with the desperation of a predator cornered. On the 7th day, as the Alliance forces pushed toward the planetary surface, the Nemesis suffered a direct hit from a new Draken weapon, one designed specifically to disrupt the Ghost Protocol. The massive ship phased uncontrollably between dimensions, its systems failing. On the devastated bridge, Admiral Chen took manual control, ordering all non-essential personnel to evacuation pods. Get clear, she told Admiral Kojima, who had been thrown across the command deck by the impact. I can stabilize the drive enough for one final maneuver. Maya, you can't. Helena. Maya's voice was calm, her decision made. Tell the survivors of Harmony what we did here. Tell them their sacrifice wasn't in vain. As evacuation pods streamed from the damaged vessel, Maya Chen plotted a course directly for the Sovereign's palace, a massive structure visible from orbit, its architecture a monument to Draken dominance. The Nemesis phased in and out of normal space as it descended through the atmosphere, Draken defense batteries tracking it but unable to lock on effectively. When it finally rematerialized fully, it was directly above the palace. In the throne room, the Sovereign, larger than any other Draken, his armor adorned with trophies from conquered worlds, watched in disbelief as the massive human vessel appeared, its broken form still dwarfing his palace. On the Nemesis, Admiral Chen activated the ship's final protocol. The Ghost Drive overloaded, creating a cascading dimensional rift that tore through space-time. Her last thought was of Lily, not as she had seen her last, standing defiant before the Draken, but as a child looking up at the stars, wondering what lay beyond. The explosion was unlike anything witnessed before, not merely a physical detonation, but a tear in the fabric of reality itself. The palace, the Sovereign, and a significant portion of the Draken capital simply ceased to exist, replaced by a swirling vortex of dimensional energy. With their leadership decapitated and their capital in ruins, the remaining Draken forces surrendered within hours. The war that had begun with a massacre at Outpost Harmony ended with the liberation of 17 species and the complete restructuring of power in this sector of the galaxy. 1 year later, representatives from 23 species gathered on the rebuilt Viridian homeworld to sign the Harmony Accords, a treaty establishing the interstellar cooperative, with Earth and Viridia as founding members. The ceremony took place in a memorial garden, centered around a statue depicting two figures, a human girl and a young Viridian, standing back to back, facing outward as if to protect each other. At the base of the statue was inscribed a quote attributed to Lily Chen: "We can find a peaceful solution." Admiral Kojima, now serving as Earth's representative to the Cooperative Council, stood before the assembled delegates. "We gather today not to celebrate victory, but to honor sacrifice and commit ourselves to ensuring such sacrifices are never again necessary. The Draken belief power came from domination. We have proven that true strength lies in cooperation." As she spoke, ships orbited peacefully above, vessels from dozens of worlds, their designs as varied as the species that built them. Among them, a new class of exploration vessel prepared for its maiden voyage. Its name, emblazoned on its gleaming hull, Pathfinder I. In the command chair sat Captain Sarah Okafor, once a communications officer, now tasked with leading humanity's renewed mission of peaceful exploration. "Course laid in, Captain," reported her helmsman. Sarah nodded, her gaze fixed on the stars beyond. "Engage Ghost Protocol. Let's see what's out there." The ship shimmered briefly before disappearing into the dimensional space that had once been a weapon of war, but now served as a highway to the stars. Humanity had faced the darkness and emerged not merely victorious, but transformed. Across the galaxy, species that had lived in fear of the Draken for generations now looked to Earth with something new: respect. They had witnessed what happened when humanity's fury was unleashed, but more importantly, they had seen what followed. Not conquest, but healing. Not dominance, but partnership. The universe was vast and largely unexplored. Dangers undoubtedly remained hidden among the stars. But whatever threats might emerge in the future would face not isolated civilizations fighting alone, but a united front of species that had learned from humanity's example. In a research laboratory on Viridia, human and Viridian scientists worked side by side, studying the dimensional phenomena created by the Ghost Protocol. Among them was Dr. Elena Volkov, whose innovations had helped win the war. "The dimensional barrier isn't a wall," she explained to her colleagues, pointing to simulations running on holographic displays. "It's more like a veil, and we've just begun to lift it." A young Viridian researcher named Mira, whose light patterns sometimes reminded Elena of Lily Chen's friend Ilara, leaned forward eagerly. "If we can stabilize the interface, we could potentially access entire new universes." Elena smiled, remembering something Zirith had said during those dark days after the Harmony massacre. "Your species has always fascinated me. You are so young, yet you push boundaries other species would not approach for millennia." "Well," she said, adjusting the parameters of their experiment, "we're fast learners." Above them, the stars continued their eternal dance, indifferent to the rise and fall of empires. But within their light, countless civilizations now looked toward the future with renewed hope, a future shaped by the species that had watched as innocence was destroyed, and whose fury had shattered a cosmos, only to rebuild it better than before. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage, not as conquerors, nor as victims, but as champions of a simple, powerful truth: that the strongest force in the universe was not the will to dominate, but the courage to protect those who cannot protect themselves. And if that truth ever again faced challenge, the galaxy would remember what happened when humanity witnessed evil and chose to act.